Conor Benn takes on Adrian Granados this weekend to kick off Matchroom's second season of Fight Camp. Conor Benn has never been a fighter that I have had particularly high hopes for. Like many, I believe that he lost to Cedric Peno in their first fight, which is probably the best sixth rounder I've ever seen in my entire life. But overall, he never struck me as having any outstanding qualities. His skills, for my money, always seemed to be underdeveloped. His athleticism was okay, but nothing to write home about. And I also felt that he was undersized for the weight class that he fights in. Just to give an anecdote, I've seen Conor Benn a few times in person, and he is very small. He's small in terms of height, but also just his frame. I know he's packed on a bit more muscle over the years, but he's very small. I was joking with Hatman not long ago and actually said that Conor Benn was built like a schoolboy, because he just hasn't got like a very mature body. He's very small and not very doesn't have a big build, just a small man. Despite this though, I must admit that Ben has been on a very clear upwards trajectory. He is clearly developing himself as a fighter in the gym, and his matchmakers I think have done a good job of enhancing both his experience and his profile. And now this Granados fight is seen by many as Ben's toughest test to date. And on paper that's probably a valid point. But when I look deeper, personally I see this as a fight that Ben should win, but also win big. Granados is by far the most experienced fighter that Ben has come up against. But with experience typically comes miles on the clock. And the most vivid memory I have of Granados was when he had 7 bells knocked out of him by Danny Garcia back in April 2019. This was Granados' only stoppage defeat in 8 losses. So it's not like he's getting blown out. So he's got 8 losses and 8 KO losses. Not like that, but that loss in particular stuck in my head. And Granados is kind of the quintessential brave fighter. Brave in inverted commas. He has very little skill and very few athletic qualities, but he makes up for it with work rate and tenacity and a kind of rough and ready style. And though these qualities do have the potential to trouble any fighter, history has shown that, especially a fighter like Ben, who is partial to being drawn into a tear-up, I just think that at this moment in time, this kind of approach won't serve Granados well. Granados is there to be hit, and I think that the Garcia loss showed that Granados' toughness is probably on the slide. Conor Benn isn't untouchable though. He can often be clipped mid-combo, as he sometimes keeps his head on the centre line, and that can also explain his perceived lack of power, because Conor Benn does seem to kind of blow hot and cold in the power department. He's had some early stoppages, but then he's also gone distance a fair few times. And what I see of Conor Benn, he has the speed, the explosiveness, but his technique isn't as consistent. So as I say, sometimes he doesn't fully commit to his punches in terms of the effort he does, but when it comes to the articulation, the biomechanical movement of his mass, the mass that he needs to accelerate to generate power, he doesn't always fully commit to that movement, probably because it just hasn't been drilled enough, or maybe he just doesn't have the deepest understanding of how to generate power in his punches. And it obviously serves a dual purpose, because the generation of power inherently takes your head from one side of the center line to the other. And what that does is it then makes your head a moving target and generates power when you let that shot go. Just a little biomechanical lesson there. But Ben's positional awareness isn't the greatest. He'll often move his head seemingly just for the sake of moving it, because his coach says so, or because he believes that that's what gets you success in boxing. And you can kind of understand why, as I just explained. The movement of head shows the articulation of the body, which generates the power in the shots and makes the head a moving target, which is harder to hit. But you have to have an understanding of when your head is in a certain position, which shots are you susceptible to getting hit by. And Ben, from what I've seen of him, hasn't grasped that concept entirely. He sometimes, when he's doing this default head movement, he's unaware of what he's moving into, and he does get his head rocked back sometimes. Also because his hand placement can be quite static, and it just means that he moves into a shot that he wasn't expecting because he didn't anticipate it. He wasn't completely focused on the dangers. So yeah, he does get his head rocked back sometimes. Not a great look, but it shows that there's still a lot that he has to brush up on. Even though Ben has these flaws, I do believe he has a good chance of becoming the second man to stop Granados. I think that a Ben stoppage is likely to come in the first 3 rounds. And if Granados is able to survive those opening rounds, then I can see him being able to stay in there for the long haul. And maybe even win a round or 2. Maybe he'll be able to catch Ben with a few shots when, or if, Ben gets stuck on the centre line during his kind of wild combinations. Maybe Granados can sneak a shot in there and rock Ben's head back and catch the eye of the judges. Yeah, if Granados is able to get out the first 3 rounds, I can see him being able to stick in there for the distance, maybe win a round or 2, but ultimately be out hustled by the younger, more dynamic, more explosive Conor Benn. Now, my issue is to pick whether I want to go with an early Ben stoppage or Ben on points. And this is the tough part because Ben is kind of riding the crest of a wave right now. He's had some good performances that he's managed to string along with, some decent competition. He obviously stopped Samuel Vargas last time out early, but many people, including me, would say that stoppage was a bit too early. The referee should have let go on a bit. But Ben is obviously, he's on a high right now. He probably has unshakable confidence, and Granados hasn't looked good. He is the Garcia loss has been a while, so it's not like he got sparked up by Garcia in his last fight. He's had some outings since then, and he hasn't been stopped. But I believe that Conor Benn maybe is more explosive, more sudden than Danny Garcia, and for that reason, I think he may be able to catch Adrian Granados cold, as I say, in the first 3 rounds. And I hope we don't, but I think we may end up with another British stoppage, as it's come to be known as. So I'm going to nail my colours to the mast, and I'm going to go for Ben in the first 3 rounds, potentially an early stoppage. That's my take on this fight. It's my 2 cents. If you want to discuss this fight in the comments, leave a comment. I'll get back to you. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.